So your mom inspired you to get into the movie business?
Yeah.
And how did that happen?
Because she wanted to be an actress, and I thought if I became an actor, I would get her affection. Because she doted over my younger brother, Antonio, and wanted him to be an actor. So I thought if I became an actor, she would, I would get that love from her.
What did Antonio end up doing?
He's a contractor now.
He's a contractor.
Yeah, and it's practicing witness.
Practicing witness.
Yeah, he's
good for him.
He's maintained
good relationship. You guys.
Yeah, we have a great relationship. But
are 11 of you guys all close?
Most of us are.
Great.
We there's a lot of communication, but then the younger ones are kind of getting their own thing out there. I don't have as much in common with my brothers anymore because I'm not a witness, and they're still trying to, proselytize in a way. And I'm trying to open their eyes to, let's look at some of the statistics, some of the facts, from the scriptures. If every word is supposed to be the word of God, if you find one mistake in there, then you've got to throw the entire thing out. The entire thing becomes questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not questioning the divinity of God, but I do question how we've been taught in our belief systems. I think our belief systems, it's time to raise them and take the allegories that we can, but we need to start basing things on actual fact.
So you going into Hollywood, at what age did you get the first job? How did you get into it?
First job I got was on the Cosby Show. I went to Barry Moss's casting agency because my brother Antonio was invited to come in there, and then he couldn't go because he was in Cleveland. I was in New York at the time, and I went in there and I got the job on the Cosby Show.
Is that it, Rob?
No, that was
Single. Living Single. They cut me out of the show.
Oh, they cut you out of the show. Did they really? Like, there's no scenes of you in it?
They cut me out of the show because I was just a friend of Theo. I was playing ping pong and all of that, and I was so hurt by it. And I called my great-grandmother, Minnie Gentry, who was an actress who had been on the Cosby Show. And I asked her, I said, I feel like I need to go talk to Cosby because Cosby had told me that he liked us together. And I hadn't talked to Barry Moss in 3 weeks or whatever. And so I went up to Cosby's room, went to the Kaufman Astoria Queens, Kaufman Astoria Studios, and had made friends with everybody inside of the lobby, So they let me in thinking I was coming in. And I waited outside of Cosby's door, and I said to him, when he showed up, he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I'd just love to talk to you for a minute. And he invited me into his room, and he said, so what's on your mind? I said, I watched the show last night. And he was like, good. He said, I said, but they cut me out of it. He was like, yeah, it happens. Yeah, it happens. I was like, but nobody told me that it was going to happen. He's like, you didn't, your agent should have told you. I was like, oh, I don't have an agent. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, but, well, you said that you liked us together and you were going to have me back. I haven't heard anything from anybody. And he took a minute and looked at me. And he was like, well, it could happen, but it also can't happen. And I'm like, well, what I did is I told everybody at my school that I was going to be on the show. I was in college at Pratt Institute, and I had them come and watch the show, and then I wasn't there, and I was embarrassed. And he said, well, in this business, you learn you don't tell somebody you're in something. You let somebody call you and tell you they saw you. And then he said to me, he said, but that's just how this business is. And I said, well, you know what? I'm a man just like you. Here's this 19-year-old boy that takes another moment at Disneyland. I said, I'm a man just like you. I eat, piss, and I crap. But the way you're talking to me feels like I'm an insignificant worm,
You said that?
Yeah, I said it.
And how old are you at?
I'm 19. I'm 19. And I never told anybody about this conversation. And I said, but if this is how the business is, I don't think I want to be a part of it. And he said, that's a choice you got to make. Well, I leave there. And Barry Moss will never take my call again. And then maybe 7 years later, I bump into Malcolm Jamal Warner on a set, and he was like, yo, I heard about you having a conversation with Bill Cosby, and I was completely in the wrong. I didn't get disrespectful with him, but I was in the wrong because I needed to have an agent. I didn't need to come in.
So you're taking responsibility.
Oh, I did that. I did that. I did. There's but Cosby, years later, he called me and because the rumor had got out there, thinking that I had been blackballed because of Cosby. And he said, would love for you to go on the radio and tell them that I didn't do this. And I was like, I don't know if you did or didn't, but you weren't in the wrong that time. Same thing happened with me and Joe Silver. I'm doing the Brave one. And we're at the Venice Film Festival, and some reporter out of nowhere gaslights me. And he says to me, he's like, why isn't your name above the titles with Jody? And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, why isn't my name above the titles with Jody? So I started making calls as if that was my right. And it wasn't. And then Joe Silver came and had a conversation with me. He's like, the reason your name isn't above the titles is because you're not the star of this thing. It's Jody. And if you get nominated for an Oscar, it's going to be for supporting actor. It's not going to be for best actor. And I was like, okay, thank you for telling me that. Now I understand. But you have to remember, I'm a man just like you. And if you ever talk to me in that way again, I'm going to knock your teeth out your mouth.
You said that.
This is what I said. And then I have to fly back on a private flight with him. And Susan Downey is his producing partner on that. And then maybe 8 months later, I lose Iron Man. And wow. I'm sure that all of those things played their part. But I got gaslit. He did the right thing in coming and talking to me. But I responded in this aggressive manner instead of being cool about and understanding that, you get what's supposed to come to you.
It's a tough thing to admit to, though.
Oh my God.
You're in a business where it's image. It's so you're to take how could you have done it differently?
Oh,
if you go back?
I would have just let it pass with him asking, shouldn't you be above the titles? Well, if I should be above the titles, I would be. You are where you're supposed to be. Now I understand that. Shouldn't you be with that girl right there? Yeah, if that was my girl, should I wither in despair because a woman be so fair? Is she fair to me? A girl may seem as fine as can be, the most beautiful thing you ever did see, but if she ain't mine, what the F I care how fair she be? That position above the title wasn't mine. I didn't need it.
How important is it in Hollywood? How often do actors say, "Wait a minute, why am I number two? I was number how?" No, is it a very important?
Yeah, well, it
too?
shows it's still the classes. I'm above this. I'm below this. And right now I don't care where I am at on the call list. I just want to perform the best that I possibly can. I've grown up now, but the mistakes I made back then, oh my God. I'm the one that put myself in the doghouse. Other people didn't do. There was a game. There's a way there's procedures to the game. If you don't follow the procedures, you get out of it. And I did not know how to control my anger at the time. I didn't know how to control my mouth. I kept getting in my own way. When we were doing this movie Boycott, and Jeffrey Wright is sitting there, we're playing chess with each other right before he's got to go in, and I've got my pawns, 3 pawns set up here, but I haven't been able to castle. I'm trying to castle, but I can't get around there, and I've got a bishop that's still blocking blocking me from being able to castle, and he dropped his rook down and checkmated me. And he said, right there is your biggest problem. You won't get out of your own way. He said, the cameraman was watching you, and he's seeing you from this angle, and he looks good like this, and he could do this, that, and the other. But he said, but you won't do it because you won't get out of your own way. And getting out of my way then was I had a gold ring that I was determined to keep on. And I was like, I always wear this. And it's not the character. I was like, but I always wear this and da-da-da-da-da. And I was in my own way about something that was unimportant. I had forgotten, and you grow up and you listen. When I had a meeting with Denzel once, and he told me, he was like, look at your hands, man. You're always like this. Your fists are all balled up. He said, and all these producers want to do is they're trying to open your hand and so they can put money in it. But you won't do it. You keep your hands all tight like this. and you're blowing it. And this is 20 years ago.
Holy moly!
This
What
is
kind of
20 years ago.
advice? So 20 years ago, were you 20 years ago would be what? 2006, or 20 years ago?
It was right before, it was maybe about 20. It was right before I did Hustle and Flow. It was right before, because I ended up going back into the Chitlin circuit. I was no longer being supported by the studios again. Because I was so aggressive.
How many times did this happen? How many times?
At least 8 times. I've had a number of opportunities, and but my aggression, my need to be a man, you ain't gonna talk to me like that. Instead of learning how to diffuse and to walk away and to smile. Okay, this isn't your day, or this isn't my road right now.
Who plays a role in an actor that obviously is very talented, obviously is an A-lister, obviously it's a guy that can get up there and make the few $100 million? Who typically plays the role of saying, hey, listen, let's pump the brakes? Who's having a tough Was your manager somebody that knew how to manage your toughness?
Didn't. Well, the people that were trying to manage me at the time were Benny Medina and people of that nature. And it's like they have a different agenda. They're walking a different walk. And I wasn't down for that. And I didn't have the ears to listen at the time. I just wasn't there yet. They could have, my parents talked to me, but I'd been beat up so much as a little kid because I was light-skinned with green eyes in a black neighborhood, and they used to slap me and say, watch him turn red. And I had to learn how to fight at 13, 14. And once I learned how to fight, now I'm going to make everybody pay for what's happened to me. And that's what I realized I was doing. I'm just battling. I'm battling shadows from the past. You ain't gonna punk me, And it's like I was punking myself. So that's the hardest thing, to get out of your own way, to recognize, oh, wow, this ain't even about me. Hi, everyone. My name is Terrence Howard. I'm an actor, but in the field of science also. So if you would like to connect with me, you can connect with me on Minect. The QR code is down below, and let's have a great conversation.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.